Hey, what's up? This is Aewon Wolf. Welcome to my channel, and I really appreciate you clicking on this video. You clicked on this video because you want to learn how to get the superpower of being unoffendable. Stay tuned. I appreciate it all. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching this video again, and if you have been on my channel before or subscribed, then you know what I do is I share a lot of information and life lessons and wisdom that I've learned on my journey of happiness, and hopefully that can help you on your journey of happiness. What I have experienced or what I have done might not work for all, but has worked really well for me, and I only want to share the things that really work well for me that I believe could work for other people. So if you get that, please like, subscribe, share, and comment, and let me know if any of this actually works for you, because your guys' comments really motivate me in a way that I know that this is actually hitting home the way that I want to. It's not about the numbers, it's not about the views. If you know any of my content from previous videos, you know that that's not important. That's not a metric of life, and it's not a metric you should be using in your life. It's all about impact. So if you only reach 2, 3, 5 people, that's amazing, versus reaching 500,000 people and actually not making actual impact or positive change in their life. That's not what we're talking about today. So let's get straight into today's video, becoming unoffendable. What is it to be unoffendable? Being unoffendable is not to be offended by the beliefs and actions of others. The Oxford definition of offended states offended is an adjective for being resentful or annoyed, typically as a result of a perceived insult, i.e., he sounded rather offended. So essentially, to be unoffendable is to not perceive insult or be resentful or annoyed by others' beliefs and actions. So let's start with, why should you be unoffendable? I would like to start with a quote from author Shannon Alder. The only real conflict you will ever have in your life won't be with others, but with yourself. Please keep this quote in mind as I carry on with my analysis. Most times in life, we are offended or resentful or annoyed by the beliefs or actions of others when we believe that their usually contrary beliefs or actions are wrong or evil and perceive them as a direct conflict of our own beliefs. We then become offended when they share or show these beliefs because we consider them to be wrong or evil. Undoubtedly, yes, we can look out into the world and see there are many things that we could easily point out as being objectively wrong or evil. But the harder we look at the world, we might notice that most of what we actually consider wrong or evil is based on our personal biases, experiences, upbringing, society, and understandings. Take the issue of eating meat, for example. Some people consider the practice of eating the flesh of other sentient beings as evil or wrong, but I'm sure as you or most of society will consider this not to be the case based on your own reasoning, conditioning, and convictions. I'm not here to argue whether eating meat is evil or wrong, but rather highlighting how beliefs of right and wrong are relative and are usually shaped by a number of conditions. The same way most of modern Western society deems it okay and sees nothing wrong with the killing of a pig for its meat, and in the same breath are outraged at the killing of a dog in the East for the same reasons, even though scientifically a pig is considered more intelligent, and as far as an adult pig being more intelligent than a toddler human being. Pigs are scientifically proven to be sentient and have emotions, create social bonds, experience fear, pain, trauma, and other traits we experience as humans. Yet modern Western society, at least at the moment, supports the killing of these sentient beings for the satisfaction of our taste buds. Again, I highlight these points not to guilt you into becoming a vegan, which I highly recommend, by the way, but rather just to point out how morality can be relative. I definitely have many of my own beliefs of what is right and wrong based on my understanding of things and my faith, but I also do not presume to know these things for certain, but my faith has guided me to base all my choices in love as my yardstick of measurement of what is right and wrong. So I'm sure some of you are thinking, that's nice, Aewon, but why shouldn't I be offended when I know something is wrong? Well, that's just it. You might know they are wrong and actually be right, which in a lot of cases you can never be certain, but in those few cases where it's beyond all doubt, then you should consider that that person's environment, upbringing, and understanding has made them ignorant, and that you might be their first opportunity of enlightenment. And for you to be offended by their ignorance is exactly the same as someone else being offended at something you have not had the right conditions to understand as wrong yet. I have found it extremely not beneficial and counterproductive for myself to be offended. If anything, it's only beneficial to the offender in arousing a desired reaction out of me. The author and writer Mokokoma Mokonowana says, freedom of speech gives us the right to offend others, whereas freedom of thought gives us the choice as to whether or not to be offended. And that, my friends, is the key. See, to be offended is a choice. So you can then ask yourself, which choice helps and which choice hurts you? I'm not oblivious to the fact that it also just feels good to be right about something, especially when the person who is wrong is arrogant in their ignorance. We love to expose the ignorance and highlight how enlightened we are. But how is this beneficial to us or society except for our own ego? There's also the social justice warrior in all of us, if we are being honest. We believe that if we bully enough ignorant people publicly, that shame will deter them and others from being ignorant and in turn make the world just a little better, right? Well, no. See, in reality, this is not the case. Yes, ignorance should be corrected and fixed, but as we've seen in today's society, it is just shamed and bullied into hiding itself in the hope that it will magically disappear. But what really happens is that we push the ignorant into echo chambers of other like-minded ignorant people, further radicalizing them into their ignorance. We make the bad into worse by unifying them into more extreme groups while we, the so-called enlightened, bicker amongst ourselves on who is most right. This is how Trump became president in America. And many countries across the world are seeing the rise of alt-right nationalist groups taking power despite their overtly racist and ignorant politics. See, they unify and give safe haven to those who are ignorant and have been shamed by making them feel better about themselves and reinforcing their beliefs. Because essentially these people are just tired of being called out and shamed by those they offend. And listen, I'm not saying these ignorant people should be coddled or allowed to freely push their ignorance on others. But what I am saying is that it is not beneficial to react from annoyance and anger, but rather approach each circumstance with compassion and understanding that they may not know what they do. The intention and motivation is important and will produce the results. If you find yourself to be one of those people who found relevance and popularity in being offended and have found meaning for yourself in doing so as a so-called troll or keyboard activist, know this, as the author and writer Oliver Marcus Malloy stated in his book Inside the Mind of an Introvert. Some people love to feel offended because it makes them feel important. When your only tool is a hammer, suddenly every problem starts to look like a nail. And when the only time you feel relevant is when you claim to be offended, suddenly everything looks offensive. This will become your nature, and you'll find no happiness in everything. Your warped perception will leave you in a state of annoyance over everything. Who wants to live like that? I know I don't. So don't let yourself become a thin-skinned person who is easily offended, because it's counterproductive and there's a better way of making the world better, and that's love. I know some of you probably just rolled your eyes, but hear me out. If we start a dialogue, not from conflict, but from a position of love and understanding, we will more likely create a change in someone's thinking. Because they won't be as defensive. They will feed off your good energy and be more open to engaging. I do not deny that most people will not be so forthcoming and probably abuse your kindness in the beginning. But after a while, and probably away from your first engagement, they will give thought to what you shared and maybe learn on their own. This is more likely to happen the younger the person is, due to neuroplasticity of the brain and people just being more stubborn the older they are. It is a much better approach than shaming. I learned this principle from Jesus. I believe that this is what he meant when he said, when you're slapped on the one cheek, turn and give them the other. This behavior of facing evil with love has worked time and time again and saves you the pain and limitations of resenting someone else. President Nelson Mandela once said, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. So do yourself that favor and avoid the poison completely. So how do you make yourself unoffendable and immune to the poison of resentment? By mastering yourself. Mastering an offensive situation is ultimately a matter of mastering yourself. In his work, The Meditations, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote about taking responsibility for things within your control. Someone despises me, that's their problem. Mine not to do or say anything despicable. Someone hates me, their problem. Mine to be patient and cheerful with everyone, including them, ready to show them their mistake, not spitefully or to show off my self-control, but in an honest, upright way. Marcus Aurelius counsels compassion for those who offend you. They are misguided and deserve your compassion. And is that so hard? There is no doubt that no matter how much self-control or self-mastery you have, you cannot control your initial natural feelings. So it's okay if someone says or does or sparks a feeling of anger or resentment or even judgment as a knee-jerk reaction in you. But everything you do after that is where the problem starts. And you can cross over to the land of resentment. So the second way to combat that is to understand your own feelings and where they come from. Carl Jung, a well-known Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology, links resentment in others as a form of projection. We project what we hate most about ourselves onto others. So be wary of what you are resenting in others, because it could actually be a fault in yourself that you are only subconsciously aware of. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his work, The Meditations, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This is important in understanding others, as we all should accept that we are not perfect, hence we should be wary in expecting perfection from others. And back to another fundamental teaching from Jesus of do not judge others lest you be judged yourself. Jesus once said, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? This all goes back to the beginning of this when I mentioned the relative nature of morality. We take offense when someone else's understanding conflicts with ours, which brings me to the next point. Always be willing to accept you could be wrong. This is a simple yet difficult exercise to do, as I think it's human nature to hate being wrong and further to be afraid of looking lost when most of us are most of the time. So when we find a truth we like or is convenient to our situation and our environment, we hold on hard to that belief, no matter how skewed it may be, because it gives us surety to do so. But this fear of change is essentially just the fear of truth. Marcus Aurelius writes, if someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed. It is the person who continues in his self-deception and ignorance who is harmed. So don't be afraid to engage in understanding someone else's point of view. You might find that you were actually the one that was wrong the entire time. And the worst that could happen in you engaging is you having a better understanding of the other's point of view, even if you find or believe that they are still wrong. There will also be a mutual respect gained, because sometimes people just want to be heard. And if you truly believe in your beliefs, then you won't be shaken by just hearing someone else's point of view. And rather, your own beliefs will be strengthened if they are truly true. And at best, you just might be enlightened. The last thing I want to share about the superpower is that it allows you to be free of things that do not serve you and understand your true power, the power of controlling yourself and understanding that you cannot control the outside world. As Marcus Aurelius states, you have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You cannot be harmed unless you choose to be harmed. The power of your perception belongs to you and you alone. No matter how hard someone may try, they can only offend you if you perceive an insult, and based on what I've just shared and many other reasons, just don't perceive the insult. Because you should know your truth, and that's all that matters. Lastly, as Marcus Aurelius states, I have often wondered how is it that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value of his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Be true to yourself, and you will become unoffendable.